Hello again. So this is my next video from 10.2, my second video from 10.2, and I promised you a second example, and it's very wordy, and the net result is it hasn't left me with much space to put my notes, but let's give it a try anyway. So we're starting with our claim, and what we have here is a whole bunch of information about an electronic system for deciding whether or not a ball is in bounds or out of bounds in tennis. And so if they challenge the call, then they get to look at the instant replay to see whether or not a ball was inbound. So in a recent US Open, singles players made 611 challenges, I don't know out of how many games, seems like a lot, and 172 were successful. That is, they were upheld by the Hawkeye electronic system. And so it caused them to have those calls overturned, which wasn't a very high percentage. So let's test the claim that fewer than a third of all of the challenges are successful, as in the calls will be overturned. So we've got our step one here, find the claim. Here's our claim, step one. Let's write the claim in math. Ooh, that's legible. Sorry about that. It's hard using this weird pen. So the claim in math is that the proportion of all of the challenges are successful, and we're claiming that that proportion is less than 0.33. I don't know how many decimal places you want there, because 1/3 is an infinitely repeating decimal. And the complement is that the proportion is greater than or equal to that. Well, we're not going to choose that because that has equality in it. The null hypothesis is that the true proportion is equal to 1/3. Oopsie. And the alternative is going to be the same as the claim. We're not going to choose the complement because the complement contains equality. So it's going to be less than 0.333. Okie dokie, and I'm going to try to leave that up on the screen. So our data that we collected, so I'm up to step 3 here. This was step 2. Step 3 here is the data is that the number of successes were 172 out of number of challenges 611. And let's see. Oh, and our significance level? Ooh, quite a small significance level. Not entirely sure why on that. I got this out of a textbook. So that's our significance level, and that's step 4. Now, step 5, we should do that criteria check, and I gotta tell you, this is probably not SRS. Let us assume that it is SRS. Let's take it from there. Is NPQ greater than 10? Well, NPQ is 172, that's promising. The proportion of successes we're assuming is 1/3, and the proportion of failures is going to be 2/3. And what does that equal? I will just ask Mr. Calculator. Oopsie. Hang on a second. Okay, I was struggling a little bit with my calculator there, but I got it figured out there. So when I multiply all that together, my calculator gives me, 38.22, which is definitely bigger than or equal to 10, so I'm good there. Now, also I might run into a little bit of trouble here. Is N less than 5% of the population? Well, N is 5% of quite a big number, 12,220. And so I would need the, hang on a second. I would need there to be at least that many tennis games. Not a problem. Okay, so on the assumption that my population is tennis games that are challenged, happily willing to believe there's more than 12,000 of those. So I'm good to go. I'm going to use my one prop z-test because this is a claim about proportions. So what that gives me is, what's my p-naught? My p-naught is the p-value in the null hypothesis. So that was 0.3333. 3, the way we rounded it. And what will my x's be? My x's will be the number of successes. My n will be my out of how many. And what I want to know is prop not equal to, less than, or greater than p naught. And what we've got here in our alternative hypothesis was that it was less than. And so what my calculator coughs up for me is that my p-value is equal to, oh gosh, what have I done with that? I have it written down somewhere. Oh, how interesting. Here's what I got. My p-value is 0.0033. So lots of 3's in this particular problem here. And so now we'll move on to step 6. We'll compare that to the significance level. And even though we have a low significance level, our p naught is even smaller. So the p is low, the null must go. I'm going to reject the null. Now I can embrace the alternative. And the alternative in this case was the claim. And so for my very last step, step 7, I'm going to have to erase this screen because there is no way I'm going to fit my conclusion about the claim on the space that I have left. Give me a second while I erase. So where we left off before I paused is that we were embracing the claim, which is all very exciting. But remember, that has no meaning to somebody who hasn't taken the statistics course. And they're not going to pay you to do this for them if they have as high a level of statistics as you do. So you have to bring it back to their level. So what is my claim here? What am I saying about the claim? I'm embracing the claim. But what I'm saying here is the evidence supports, we don't. We just interpreted the evidence. The evidence supports the claim that fewer than 1/3 of the challenges to calls made by referees were successful. Phew, okay, we made it all the way to the end. We are done.